You no longer chase peace. It lives in you, even in the storm. There was a time, not long ago, when peace felt like a place you had to reach, a place far away, always just outside your grasp. You thought, if I can fix this, if I can change that, if they treat me right, if life finally gives me a break, maybe then I'll feel peace. But you've grown, you've shifted, you've awakened to something deeper. Because now, peace isn't something you chase, it's something that dwells right here inside your chest. And you carry it with you through the fire, the chaos, the confusion. You've noticed it, haven't you? The world still spins like it always did, full of noise, full of problems, full of unexpected turns, but you don't spin with it anymore. Your soul isn't tossed around by every opinion, every crisis, every change of plans. There's a calmness in you now that can't be explained by circumstances. You sit in silence, and it speaks louder than any voice. You face conflict, but it doesn't shake you like before. You walk into uncertainty, and somehow you're not afraid. Not because everything's perfect, but because something greater has anchored you within. That's the sign. That's the shift. Peace is no longer a destination. It's become your foundation. And what's even more beautiful, you don't need the outside to be quiet for you to feel calm. The storm can rage. The waves can rise. The world can misunderstand you, reject you, mock you. But there's a stillness in you that cannot be taken away. It's not that you don't feel the pain. You do. You're still human. You still cry. You still have questions. But you don't crumble. You don't unravel. You bend, but you don't break. Because your peace doesn't come from what's around you. It comes from who is within you. And that kind of peace, it changes everything. Suddenly, the need to control disappears. You don't have to force outcomes, prove yourself, or live in fear of what tomorrow holds. You simply trust, not passively, not naively, but with quiet strength. A strength that whispers, even if I don't know how this ends, I know who I am in the middle of it. You stop panicking about delays. You stop worrying about opinions. You stop trying to rush the process. Why? Because your spirit knows peace isn't about pace. It's about presence. It's about knowing you're held, even when nothing else makes sense. You've probably seen it in small ways, in the conversations where you used to snap, but now you pause and speak with grace. In the disappointments that would have crushed you before, but now you breathe, you regroup, and you keep walking. In the moments where fear used to scream, but now faith stands taller. That's not weakness, that's not indifference, that's peace. And the best part? It's not momentary. It's not dependent on your paycheck, your relationships, or your status. This peace isn't rented, it's yours, sealed, settled, unshakable. You become someone who carries calm into chaos, someone whose presence itself brings comfort to others. Not because you're pretending to have it all together, but because you've found something real, something rooted, something eternal. You don't avoid the storm, you walk through it. And even in the middle of the wind and the waves, your soul whispers, "It is well." Not because of what you see, but because of what you know. And when you reach that place, when peace is no longer a thing you search for, but a fire that burns quietly within you, you'll realize something sacred has taken over. Something divine is leading the way. That's when you'll know. You're no longer just surviving. You're standing in power. Your desires begin to shift from temporary pleasure to eternal purpose. There's a moment, and if it hasn't come yet, it will, where you realize that what used to satisfy you just doesn't anymore. The things that once pulled you in, the pleasures that once consumed your thoughts, the distractions that used to excite you, they start to lose their flavor. It's not that they suddenly vanish, it's that they don't hold you anymore. They don't own your heart. And you start to feel the shift. That because when something greater is living inside of you, the temporary begins to feel empty, and the eternal starts to call your name. The same things you used to crave begin to feel small, not wrong necessarily, just less. Less fulfilling, less meaningful, less worthy of your energy, your time, your focus. You don't wake up every day thinking, how can I please myself? You start to wake up thinking, how can I walk in purpose? That's the change. That's the shift that happens when the divine gets a hold of your life. Your appetite changes. You're no longer starving for attention. You're hungry for impact. You're no longer chasing approval. You're chasing truth. You're no longer moved by trends. You're moved by truth. And here's what's wild. On the outside, not much may change at first. You might still be doing some of the same things, working the same job, living in the same house, hanging around the same people. But inside, a quiet revolution is happening. You used to want comfort, now you want calling. You used to want applause, now you want alignment. You used to want success, now you want significance. And don't get me wrong, this shift doesn't mean you suddenly stop enjoying life. No, in fact, you start enjoying it more deeply because you're no longer a slave to shallow things. You're no longer addicted to quick fixes and temporary highs. You've tasted something richer. And once your soul has experienced real meaning, fake fulfillment loses its grip. You begin to ask different questions. You don't just ask, does this feel good? You ask, is this building something that lasts? You don't just ask, will this make me happy right now? You ask, will this grow me into who I'm called to be? You don't just chase the next thrill, you chase the next assignment. You start choosing the harder road, not because you enjoy pain, but because you've discovered purpose often hides in the places others avoid. And you know what else? You begin to see through things. You recognize the traps. You sense the distractions. You feel when something is pulling you away from your destiny. And even if part of you still wants it, you know enough now to walk away. You may wrestle, you may struggle, but deep inside, you already know what's worth it and what's not. You start making different decisions. You say no to things you used to say yes to. You walk away from conversations that once entertained you. You stop trying to impress people who don't even know who you really are, because the need to be liked starts to shrink, and the need to live right starts to rise. And maybe the world doesn't understand it. Maybe people around you start saying, you've changed. That's the point. You have changed. You're not here for empty promises anymore. You're not wasting your strength trying to fill a cup that was never meant to satisfy you. You're building something bigger. You're chasing something higher. You're living for something that will outlive you. And there's nothing wrong with having joy in the small things, family, laughter, rest, good memories. But now, even those things point to something greater. Now your life isn't just about what feels good. It's about what leads well. It's about legacy. It's about obedience. It's about walking in the fullness of what was placed inside you. And when you feel that pull, when you start craving truth over trends, service over self, mission over comfort, you know without a doubt, something holy is working in you. You carry a boldness that fear cannot silence, even when you stand alone. It's not arrogance. It's not ego. It's not about shouting louder than everyone else in the room. It's about knowing something so deeply, so unshakably, that even when fear creeps in, it doesn't get the final say. Even when everything in you wants to shrink back, something greater rises up. That's the kind of boldness I'm talking about. Not the kind that needs to be seen, the kind that can't be ignored, the kind that walks into uncomfortable spaces, that speaks up when it's easier to stay quiet, that keeps moving when everything around says, stop. The kind of boldness that doesn't come from personality, but from purpose. And you feel it, don't you? Maybe you didn't notice it at first. Maybe you've always been the quiet one, the cautious one, the overthinker. Maybe you used to overanalyze every decision, every conversation, every reaction. You used to wait until the moment was perfect, until everyone agreed, until you felt ready. But now, you act, you speak, you show up, even if your voice shakes, even if the room isn't clapping, even if your knees feel weak. Why? Because you're not being driven by fear anymore. You're being led by something deeper. And don't get me wrong, fear still comes. It knocks, it whispers, it tries to convince you that you're not qualified, not strong enough, not ready. But now you know how to answer. Now you know how to move anyway. You used to need confirmation before you took a step. Now, even if no one else sees the vision, you keep walking. That's boldness, not recklessness, conviction. And sometimes that boldness looks like standing up for someone when no one else will. Sometimes it's saying what needs to be said in love, in truth, even when the room goes silent. Sometimes it's walking away from a crowd, not because you think you're better, but because you're done settling for less than what's right. You don't need everyone's approval anymore. That used to hold you hostage, didn't it? The fear of being misunderstood, the fear of being judged, the fear of being alone. But something changed. And now, even if they don't understand you, you're okay. Even if they laugh, walk away, or call you crazy, you don't bend anymore. You stand. Not because it's easy, but because you know what's true. Then here's the beautiful part. This kind of boldness doesn't make you louder. It makes you steadier. You're not trying to dominate, you're trying to deliver. You're not seeking power, you're honoring presence. You're not forcing your way in. You're walking the way that was made for you. And when you stand for truth, when you carry love with strength, when you refuse to shrink just to make others comfortable, you become a light. And lights don't have to beg for attention. They just shine. You start doing what's right, even when no one's watching. You live with integrity even when it costs you. You show up for people without needing recognition. You stay faithful even when the results don't come fast. That's boldness. The world tells you boldness looks like being loud, being wild, being aggressive. But the kind of boldness you carry, it's quiet strength. It's courage that endures. It's fire that doesn't burn out. And sometimes, yes, you will stand alone. But when you do, you'll feel it. That presence with you, in you, backing you. And suddenly, standing alone doesn't feel lonely anymore. It feels right. Because you're not standing for your ego. You're standing for what's eternal. You're not speaking your opinion. You're releasing a message that was planted deep inside of you. And when that kind of boldness begins to shape your life, you'll feel the fear still try to whisper, but it'll never again be able to shut you down. Because your courage isn't coming from the crowd, it's coming from the call. And once you've answered it, there's no turning back. Your love becomes unconditional, not because it's easy, but because it's truth. There comes a point where love stops being a feeling you wait for, and it becomes a decision you live out. A posture, a choice, a way of being, not just toward those who are kind to you, not just toward the people who make it easy, but even toward the ones who misunderstand you, reject you, hurt you. That's when love becomes real. You don't get there by accident. You get there through surrender, through transformation, because let's be honest, our natural instinct is to love with limits, to love when it's convenient, to love when it feels good. But that kind of love, it's temporary, it's conditional, it's fragile. But when something higher begins to shape your life, your heart expands, your capacity deepens. You begin to realize that love isn't just an emotion, it's a reflection of what's been poured into you. You start seeing people differently, not just for what they've done or failed to do, but for who they were made to be. And even when they fall short, you choose to see the gold inside them. You choose to respond not with bitterness, but with grace. And that choice, that unreasonable love, it doesn't make you weak. It makes you powerful. Because anyone can hate, anyone can hold a grudge, anyone can walk away when things get tough. But it takes strength to stay soft. It takes strength to forgive when no apology comes. It takes strength to speak kindness into someone's darkness, especially when their actions don't deserve it. But that's the love you begin to carry. Not a love that needs to be earned, but a love that flows because of who you've become. You stop keeping score. You stop waiting for people to meet your expectations before you offer them your heart. You stop operating from wounds, and you start operating from wholeness. And it's not that you become a doormat. No, love doesn't mean you let people walk all over you. It means you set boundaries with compassion. You say no with clarity. You correct in truth and cover in grace. Love doesn't ignore wrong, it just refuses to respond with more damage. And when this kind of love starts flowing through you, it changes your relationships. You stop needing people to be perfect before you can show up fully. You begin to lead with understanding. You listen more. You react less. You let go of petty offenses, not because they don't hurt, but because they're not worth carrying. And you begin to love not just those who look like you, vote like you, believe like you, but even the ones who oppose you. That's when you know something holy is alive inside you. Because that kind of love doesn't come from the flesh. It comes from a place beyond reason. It teaches you patience when you used to be sharp. It gives you peace when others expect you to fight. It softens your tone, shifts your perspective, widens your heart. And before you know it, you're doing things that surprise even you. You're showing up for people who can't repay you. You're giving even when it costs you. You're choosing to bless instead of curse. And when someone hurts you, you pause, you pray, you choose healing over revenge. Not because you forgot the pain, but because you've tasted something stronger than pain. You've tasted mercy, and now you become it. And here's what's beautiful. This love doesn't run dry because it doesn't depend on your strength. It flows through you, not from you. So even when you feel empty, you're still able to love because you're connected to a source that never fails. And when the world tells you to hate, to cancel, to divide, you stand rooted in something deeper, something eternal. Because this love you carry, it doesn't shift with emotion, it doesn't retreat when it's tested, it doesn't quit when it's hard. It says because it's truth,